Great. Hello, everybody. And thank you very much, Jan, for the kind introduction. As Jan said, I want to use the next 20 minutes to take you behind the scenes of our product development. But first of all, let me say, I was really impressed by this morning. I hope you also enjoyed the rest of the presentations that we already heard so far. You will hear a couple of topics popping up also in my presentation, because, of course, there are a couple of topics that are just hot right now, and it's also quite hot in the studio. Okay, in particular, in my presentation, I want to share with you how we create impact for our users and how we think about some of the broader trends in our market. So very briefly, I'm Arne, and I'm the CPO at Facelift, which means that together with my team of product managers, designers, and product operations experts, we are responsible for shaping the Facelift product. We do this in close collaboration with our products and engineering. Because only what gets built and runs smoothly, of course, has benefit to our users. I've been working in digital communications and product management for over 20 years, and I describe myself as a networker, and I strongly believe in the power of professional communities of practice, learning from each other. And for instance, I organize the largest gathering of product managers called Product at Heart in my free time. So yeah, I'm a community guy, you could say. But now let's come to the topic. How do we look at things as product people? So as product people, one of the core questions my team asks themselves every day is, how can we leverage new technologies and other shifts in the market to make our users' lives more successful and more satisfying? And to understand that, we need to use different methods to understand the needs of our users and see if our solutions really work for them. So for instance, we do a lot of interviews, we run surveys, we do usability tests, and we evaluate new products with beta phases very early on. And in my presentation, you will see a couple of examples for this. So what are the three topics that I want to dive a little bit deeper in today? They are all three shifts that I see in our environment. One is new collaboration challenges, one is employer branding, and last but not least, and maybe as expected by most people, I will also talk about generative AI. As Jan already mentioned, all of these are long-term macro trends, no secrets. So the point here is not to invent any new trends, but rather to put those trends that you have already heard out in the context of what does it mean for Facelift, and what have we learned also about these trends in speaking to our users. So let's start. And I'll start with something where I'm probably preaching to the converted at the Facelift Summit, because I'll say that social media marketing plays a very important role. Surprise, okay? And it will become even more important in the future. And you can say, okay, why is he saying it? Well, let's take a step back and remember that this has not always been like this. I still remember times when social media was something that an intern was given to play around with. And maybe later this intern was replaced by the first social media managers at organizations who sat in some corner of the organization and tried out some things pretty remotely, maybe feeding off of some above the line communication stuff. But it was pretty distance from the rest of what was going on. Luckily, these days are over in most organizations, who now understand that social media is something that concerns every department in some way, and many people either need to be looped in or want to be looped in. And this is great on one hand. I think this fits with how all in this session look at social media, but it comes with its own challenges. Like my colleague Florian just recently said, like, social media itself is no longer the secret, but orchestrating it across an organization still is. And so while social media specialists, like most of you watching this, used to be satellites in their organization setup, you have now become a spider in the net. And in this position, you must now effectively manage the fragmentation and the use of various tools across or cross-departmental responsibilities and processes to ultimately set up effective social media communication for all. My team continuously speak to users, and we're talking to existing clients as well as people who don't use our tool yet, or maybe people also who don't use any tools yet. And one thing that we hear again and again, and across very, very different types of organizations, is how they are fully aware that their processes for handling social media have become too complicated, too error-prone, and too slow, which puts a lot of stress on the social media managers in charge. And on the slide, you see a quote that we heard in one of these interviews. Maybe this sounds familiar to your own work environment. So with these shifts to new ways of collaboration also come completely new challenges. So how do you plan and orchestrate collaboration in a meaningful way? How do you keep feedback loops short and dynamically adjust to end-user interactions? How do you make social media part of your integrated communication processes? And last but not least, how do you avoid the dreaded Medienbruch in copying data from Excel to other platforms and back again afterwards? Solving these challenges is particularly important in today's age of efficiency. Nobody has time, everybody has a lot of pressure and wants to get stuff done quickly. So having all these obstacles in the way is clearly not a convenient thing to have. So what we know is that already now our users appreciate some of the collaboration features we offer on Facelift, such as content templates, idea collections, approval workflows, and our capability to loop in people who are not regularly using Facelift. But there's certainly much more that we can and we want to do. So for instance, we plan to make it easier to integrate with other tools to reduce the need for manual copy and pasting. We are currently working on enhancing our collaboration bar to close feedback loops faster. We're working on making it easier for occasional users to view and collaborate on post and analytics data in the right context. And we plan to give more actionable guidance for the different user roles that we have in the process. I think you will understand that in this talk, I will not give away features in detail, but I can assure you that if you currently struggle with your social media collaboration challenges, there's more to come. Which brings me to the next topic. The next topic is an example of departments outside in marketing and communication for whom participation in an organization's social media activities is becoming more and more important. I'm talking about employer branding, typically run by HR departments. You've seen Marlene and Julia earlier today. I know that at the new work, they are part of the HR department, not part of the communications department, so they need to align with these folks. For employer branding, social media is an ideal environment, not only because it's accessible for any organization, different from TV ads, for instance, but also because successful employer branding needs authentic messaging and the possibility to engage with an audience. And we all know that that's something that social media can do very well. I was personally able to watch the rise of employer branding in social media firsthand, because before I joined Facelift about a year ago, I worked at Xing for many years, where, of course, employer branding is a big topic for a while already. In generally, employer branding has been an increasingly important topic for organizations across all industries. And why is that? That is, on one hand, a consequence of the scarcity of skilled workers, Fachkräftemangel, as we say in German, and the resulting long-term shifts in the labor market. But it's also important because today's talents are picky. They make their career decisions based on a broader set of criteria, not just the money or the title. And employer branding can help to add the necessary transparency to form an authentic impression what it's like to work at an organization and decide if it's the right one for them. In fact, recent studies from both New Work and LinkedIn confirm that currently 3/4 of recruiters see employer branding as a crucial factor to succeed in today's war for talent. This also fits with some of the results of a survey we recently ran around our customers, because we wanted to know, like, are they already paying attention to employer branding? And as you can see, the results were pretty widely spread, but there is a clear peak at 10 out of 10. So for a lot of our users already, employer branding is relevant in their daily businesses. And in the same study, also 37% of participants stated that they already successfully use Facelift for employer branding. And this is something that we also hear in interviews with customers. But it is something, when we reflected on this, that we at Facelift had not really actively promoted until recently. So we are in process of changing this, because we are sure that this is an area where we can be of benefit to even more customers as they discover social employer branding. In particular, we know that we can help our customers address one major challenge, and that is letting employer branding teams contribute efficiently, while at the same time keeping an eye on the overall mix of messages. This is a prominent example of the collaboration I mentioned in the first part of this presentation, or some department wanting to contribute, but social media teams still wanting to keep an overview. And with our rights management and approval flows, it's easy to handle this in a way that fits the specific needs of your organization. So in case your employer branding teams are not yet using Facelift, I would propose that you invite them, because it will likely make your life more easy. Very closely related to the topic of employer branding is employee advocacy, which means turning your employees into advocates for your organization through their personal media profiles. And I strongly believe that this still is a very largely untapped potential for many organizations out there, even though it really is one of the rare cases of a win-win-win solution. And I want to say, like, I don't use terms like win-win-win very lightheartedly. In most cases, I hate it when people do. Still, I couldn't refuse. Let me explain why. So on one hand, we know about the importance of authentic messaging on social media, and we also know how much better messages from personal accounts travel on some networks in comparison to corporate accounts. So additionally, getting your message out through the personal accounts of your employees adds to the reach in an authentic way. So this is the first win. At the same time, and this is something that I learned in many years of user research at Xing, I know that a lot of people struggle to use social media in the professional context. So they understand that it would help their professional reputation if they did, but either they don't know what to post, or if they know what to post, they are not really sure if they are allowed to post it. And this is a problem that employee advocacy solves for them. And last but not least, this is also something that we've heard earlier today. Audiences are looking for authentic messages, and being able to see messages coming from employees of an organization help them form a more diverse overall picture. So how does employee advocacy actually work in practice? Well, with employee advocacy solutions like our dedicated social share app, communication professionals can provide employees with prepared posts, which employees can then use as a foundation for their own social media post on their own profiles. This is convenient for them, and nobody has to worry about what to write or whether it's okay to share a certain piece of information. And we've recently doubled down on the topic because, as you can tell, I'm a strong believer in it, and we've made it much more easy to use social share in your Facelift experience. And the feedback we are getting from users is very promising, which is why we're currently conducting even more interviews to see how we can further improve the experience and help more users make use of employee advocacy. Well, this brings me to the last topic of today, last but certainly not least. I think Jan and Thea mentioned it in their opening remarks. Well, we will hear a lot about AI today, also in my presentation, of course, because one of the important shifts, but in particular in the last 6 months, has been the broad availability of generative AI for many use cases, or even for Thea's mom. Of course, this is not the only relevant area of AI. This is something that also Jan pointed out in the talk right before me. So overall, there are many more areas of application to make our products more convenient and more efficient for our users. So for instance, we are also making use of classifiers for automatic text suggestions. And this is something that we are currently also rolling out to other parts of our product. But clearly, if I'm being honest, the possibilities of generative AI offer exciting possibilities. So let's have a closer look at what we learned in the last 6 months. So as you will know, generative AI comes in all shapes or forms. It's a broad area ranging from text creation to image creation and many other forms of expression. When we made the decision how we wanted to use it, we consciously chose text generation with ChatGPT as our first use case for generative AI, because post creation is the most common use case we have on Facelift, and this way we could benefit users across our entire customer base. So we introduced Lifty. You see the little icon on top. Lifty is our smart AI agent that helps you write posts, create variants of posts, creates posts based on links, etc., etc. And since when we introduced Lifty, the use of text-based, AI-based text generation was still pretty new to people. We first introduced Lifty as a beta and invited some brave users to first try it out. And we later then opened the beta as we saw that it was really working and people really liked it. And I must say we were amazed by how many of our clients from very, very different industries, such as banking or public organizations or retail gave it a try, and meanwhile already 2/3 of our users or of our customers use Lifty. Click. Some users have even become heavy users of Lifty and almost use it on a daily basis. So we can really tell that it has become part of their way of working. And I think this group will grow larger over time because we're all getting more and more used to really using tools based on generative AI to be more efficient and yeah, make our work lives more easy. The most common types of prompts that users are making are writing posts to specific topics, rephrasing an existing post, and promoting certain URLs. And based on interviews that we did with users, we understand that still the quality of the resulting post can be improved. Most of them actually by pretty simple tricks, such as more specific prompts or the iteration of results. So based on these learnings, we are currently working on providing more actionable guidance so that people can benefit even more from Lifty. Moving forward, we will keep exploring the possibilities of generative AI to further empower our users. And just to give you two examples, image generation is, of course, also progressing pretty fast. And we will be looking into how we can add these capabilities to the creation of posts. And additionally, we are also looking into ways to train the algorithms to adhere to customer-specific tonalities. So ideally, Lifty should learn how to speak in a brand-specific style of communication, use the right kind of terminologies, apply the same mix of emojis and hashtags that the social media managers from that organization would have used, and so on. So I think there's a lot of exciting stuff to come. And if you just saw Jan's presentation, I mean, you know, like me, this is just the beginning. There's so much more that can be done. So I think these are really exciting times ahead. So I hope that these three examples I shared with you gave you an example for how we look at some of the bigger shifts in the social media space, not all of them, but some of the important ones, and how we approach them to make our users' work more successful and satisfying. And before I close, I would like to pick your brains because I'm a curious person, and this is a great opportunity to get feedback from so many social media professionals out here. So the first question is around all the new networks that gained additional popularity since Elon Musk's takeover of Twitter, or maybe also in general. So I would be curious which of these networks you use professionally already or plan to use professionally for your organization later this year.
Maybe we give the technical team some time and jump to a question that we had on a chat. So one participant was asking about API restrictions of social media channels because he said he's currently, or she is currently, using another tool which apparently can't analyze Insta's paid media because of API restrictions. And the question is, do you have these problems as well, or how do you deal with these restrictions?
Yeah, I mean, I think the short answer is yes, we have the same struggles. So in general, what we like for every network that we work with, the capabilities that the APIs give us is basically the foundation of what we can do. And in some cases, and it's also something that our customers are again and again surprised about, not everything that you can do natively on a platform is also provided by the APIs, like the example you just gave. So yes, we have the same struggles. And of course, whenever there are new capabilities available, so just for instance, it became possible to also post Instagram stories finally through the API. We of course make use of it, but before that, you know, a lot of people couldn't understand why we couldn't do it, and that's just because the APIs were not supporting it, and then we also can't do it. So I'm hearing we can now come back to the survey. So what we see here is, okay, there are a few of you who plan or already use Mastodon, Blue Sky Post, and who also plan to look into Threads. Also, a few of you use Lemonade, but we can also see that a lot of you currently use none of these networks. And actually, funnily, yeah, this also fits with what we're getting back from the market. Nevertheless, I mean, there was the question earlier of like how we decide whether to add new networks or whether to add new capabilities for existing networks. And of course, well, results like this are also very telling for us. So on one question is the capability, are the capabilities through the API. So can we really do exciting stuff, and can we really provide our users with relevant ways of contributing to those networks based on the APIs, and the other is, well, how relevant is a certain network for our customer base and potential future customers. Okay, this brings me to the second question, and this second question is, I'm not sure if you can now see the slides. You can. So it's about vertical short video forms, also something that you have heard already about today, and I would be curious to hear, in the professional context, to which of those vertical short video formats you publish at least weekly. Because, I mean, one reason why I'm asking this question is that there is no doubt about the importance of these formats when it comes to grabbing the attention of the end user. But we know that for organizations, it's still tricky, and some organizations are still hesitant to create contents for these platforms because it also requires new ways of content creation and so on. So I'm really curious to see how it is for you. Do we have the results? Aha, okay. So here we have more of you using this already. So we see like on the first place, Instagram Reels being heavily used, followed by Facebook Reels and TikToks. And then the third format would be YouTube Shorts, which we also, by the way, on Facebook will support very, very shortly. But there are also quite a few of you who use none of these formats yet. So, I mean, I think you've seen the presentation earlier today from Meta, who talked a lot about the power you can have with vertical video formats. So I really encourage you to look into this to see what additional potential you have. Okay, and this brings me to the last slide of today, which is to say thank you very much for your attention. I would be curious also for your individual feedback, so feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn or Xing. And if you are curious about upcoming developments from my team in areas such as engagement and moderation, as well as our analytics product changes coming up, we would be glad if you joined our beta program. And with this, many thanks and enjoy the rest of the Facelift Summit.